Genesis chapter 18. The apparition at Mamre. Jehovah appeared to him at the oak of Mamre while he was sitting by the entrance of the tent during the hottest part of the day. He looked up, and there he saw 3 men standing near him. As soon as he saw them, he ran from the entrance of the tent to greet them, and bowed down to the ground. "My lord," he said, "if I find favor with you, please do not pass your servant by. Let me have a little water brought, and you can wash your feet and have a rest under the tree. Let me fetch you a little bread, and you can refresh yourself before going further, now that you have come on to your servant's direction." They replied, "Do as you say." Abraham hurried to the tent and said to Sarah, "Quick, knead 3 measures of best flour and make loaves." Then, running to the herd, Abraham took a fine and tender calf and gave it to his servant, who hurried up to prepare it. Then, taking cards, milk, and the calf which had been prepared, he laid all before them, and they all ate while he remained standing near them under the tree. "Where is your wife Sarah?" they asked him. "She is in the tent," he replied. Then his guest said, "I shall come back to you the next year, and then your wife Sarah will have a son." Sarah was listening in the tent behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, well on in years, and Sarah had ceased to have her monthly periods. So Sarah laughed to herself, thinking, "Now that I am past of the age of childbearing, and my husband is an old man, is pleasure to come my way again?" But Jehovah asked Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Am I really going to have a child now that I'm an old woman?' Nothing is impossible for Jehovah. I shall come back to you at the same time next year, and Sarah will have a son." Sarah said, "I did not laugh, lying, because she was afraid." But he replied, "Oh yes, you did laugh." Abraham intercedes for Sodom. From there the men set out and arrived within sight of Sodom, with Abraham accompanying them to speed them on their way. Now Jehovah was wondering, "Shall I conceal from Abraham what I am going to do? As Abraham will become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will bless themselves by him. For I have singled him out to command his sons and his family after him to keep the way of Jehovah by doing what is upright and just, so that Jehovah can carry out for Abraham what he has promised him." Then Jehovah said, "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sin is so grave, that I shall go down now and see whether or not their actions are at all as the outcry reached me would suggest. Then I shall know." While the men left there and went to Sodom, Jehovah remained in Abraham's presence. Abraham stepped forward and said, "Would you really destroy the upright with the guilty? Suppose there are 50 upright people in the city. Will you really destroy it? Will you not spare the place for the sake of the 50 upright in it? Do not think of doing such a thing, to put the upright to the death with the guilty, so that upright and guilty fare alike. Is the judge of the world who would not like to act justly?" Jehovah replied, "If I find 50 upright people in the city of Sodom, I shall spare the whole place because of them." Abraham spoke up and said, "It is presumptuous of me to speak to the Lord, I who am dust and ashes. Suppose the 50 upright were 5 short? Would you destroy the whole city because of 5? No," he replied. "I shall not destroy it if I find 45 there." Abraham persisted and said, "Suppose there are 40 to be found there?" "I shall not do it," he replied, "for the sake of those 40. Abraham said, "I hope the Lord will not be angry if I go on." "Suppose there are only 30 to be found there?" "I shall not do it," he replied, "if I find 30 there." He said, "Is it presumptuous of me to speak to the Lord? Suppose there are only 20 there?" "I shall not destroy it," he replied, "for the sake of the 20. he said. I trust my Lord will not be angry if I speak once more. Perhaps there will be only 10. I shall not destroy it, he replied, for the sake of those 10. When he had finally finished talking to Abraham, Jehovah went away, and Abraham returned home. Chapter 19. The Destruction of Sodom. When the two angels reached Sodom in the evening, Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom. As soon as he saw them, he stood up to greet them and bowed to the ground. My lords, he said, please come down to your servant house to stay the night and wash your feet. Then you can make an early start on your journey. No, they said, we shall spend the night in the square. But he pressed them so much that they went home with him and entered his house. He had prepared a meal for them, baking unleavened bread, and they had supper. They had not gone to bed when the house was surrounded by the townspeople, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people without exception. Calling out to Lot, they said, Where are the men who came to you tonight? Send them out to us, that we can have intercourse with them. Lot came out to them at the door, and having shut the door behind them, said, Please, brothers, do not be wicked. Look, I have 2 daughters who are virgins. I am ready to send them out to you, for you to treat as you please, but do nothing to these men, since they are now under the protection of my roof. But they retort, Stand back. This fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. Now we shall do to you worse than them. Then they forced Lot back and moved forward to break down the door. But the men reached out, pulled Lot back into the house with them, and shut the door. And they dazzled those who were outside the door, once and all, with a blinding light, so that they could not find the doorway. The men said to Lot, Have you anyone else here? Your sons, your daughters, and all your people in the city, take them away. For we are about to destroy this place, since the outcry to Jehovah against those in it has grown so loud that Jehovah has sent us to destroy it. So Lot went off and spoke to his future sons-in-law, who were to marry his daughters. On your feet, he said, leave this place, for Jehovah will destroy the city. But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. When dawn broke, the angels urged Lot to leave. To your feet, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be punished, swept away in this punishment of the city. And as he hesitated, the men seized his hand and the hands of his wife and his 2 daughters. Jehovah being merciful to him, and led him out and left him outside the city. When he had brought him outside, he was told, Flee for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stop anywhere on the plain. Flee to the hills, or you will be swept away. Oh no, my lord, Lot said to them. You have already been very good to your servant, and shown me your even greater love by saving my life. But I cannot flee to the hills, or disaster will overtake me and I shall die. That town over there is near enough to flee to, and it's small. Let me flee there. After all, it is only a small place, and so survive. He replied, I grant you this favor too, and will not overthrow the city you speak of. Hurry, flee to that one, for I cannot do anything until you reach it. That is why this city is named Zoar. As the sun rose over the horizon just as Lot entered Zoar, then Jehovah rained down on Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire of his own sending. He overthrew those cities and the whole plain, with all the people living in the cities and everything that grew there. But Lot's wife looked back, and was turned into a pillar of salt. Next morning, Abraham hurried to the place where he had stood before Jehovah, and looking towards Sodom and Gomorrah and the whole area of the plain, he saw the smoke rising from the ground like smoke from a furnace. Thus, it was that, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he did not forget Abraham, and he rescued Lot from the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities where Lot was living. The origin of the Moabites and the Ammonites. After leaving Zoar, Lot settled in the hill country with his 2 daughters, for he dared not to stay at Zoar. He lived in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. The elder said to the younger, "Our father is an old man, and there is no one here to marry us in the normal way of the world. Come on, let us ply our father with wine and sleep with him. In this way we can preserve the race of our father." That night they made their father drunk, and the elder slept with her father, though he was unaware of her coming to bed or of her waking up. The next day the elder said to the younger, "Last night I was the one who slept with our father. Let us make him drunk again tonight, and you can go sleep with him. In this way we can preserve the race by our father." They made their father drunk again that night too, and the younger went and slept with him, though he was unaware of her coming to bed or leaving. Both Lot's daughters thus became pregnant by their father. The elder gave birth to a son whom she named Moab, and he is the ancestor of the Moabites of our own times. The younger also gave birth to a son whom she called Ben-Ami, and he is the ancestor of the Bene Ammon of our own times.